All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today we got all kinds of super interesting news that has come out. Andrew Yang has raised a ton of money. And actually, Cody, I just realized right now, I didn't think about this in the pre-show. If we actually measured how much money he raised in cash, in dollar bills, it could quite possibly be over the 2,500 pound threshold. One could consider a ton.
Perhaps. Well, we'll find out more in about probably a weekish when they actually announce the fundraising totals. But they did. Andrew Yang's press secretary did announce that they are expecting to bring in at least 12.5, probably more than 12.5 million in the fourth quarter.
I mean, that's a lot.
And in a second, we're going to go and kind of compare it to some quarter three. Again, this isn't done yet, but this will ballpark 12 to 15 million. If that's where he's raising, we can look at that in relation to other candidates of quarter three. But there's some other interesting points I want to point out about this. So there's fundraising, of course, is always like when you're in a competition, it's relative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like $12 million is a lot of money, but if everyone else raises 90, it's nothing. So what's interesting about this is comparing it to some of the other main competitors. Obviously, we know Pete Buttigieg gets money, man. Pete gets money. But what about the other competitors? So without getting too far into it, Andrew Yang's presidential campaign says it expects to raise more than $12.5 million in the fourth quarter, a sum that would definitely help the entrepreneur remain competitive with the frontrunners in the Democratic primary. The haul would show a 25% bump from the $10 million his campaign raised in the previous quarter, a campaign spokesman told CNBC on Monday. That's assuming it's $12.5 million, though. If it ends up being more than that, it could be larger than a 25% bump in fundraising. Which, again, speaking of relativity, is one of the good things about this. It's more money, right? Like, again, if it's a lot of money but less than last time, that's bad. So he's increasing his fundraising totals. The money's going up. That is the good stuff. They go into here and mention kind of what he's about, but this is what they say. So S.Y. Lee, a Yang campaign spokesman, told CNBC that the $12.5 million plus haul will enable us to keep pace with the establishment campaigns that are likely to outraise us. It's interesting. We'll get into some of the other raising figures in a second. So they mention here Yang being an outsider, stuff like this. This is where things get interesting. They say, meanwhile, the Warren campaign, which has sworn off big money donors and has criticized other candidates who has welcomed them, said in an email to supporters last week that if it raised about $17 million in the fourth quarter. So talk about that. It's a good chunk behind where we were at this time last quarter. Oh, really? So there's another article I want to show you because this is what's interesting. We're talking about how Yang is about a 25% increase going off these numbers.
Projected, I mean, that's impressive.
It is, but if that's impressive, what does it mean when Elizabeth Warren's projecting a 30% decrease in her fundraising? You know what I mean? Like, again,
she's the firework that went off early, man.
Oh yeah, it's like she got her push too
the
early.
Primaries are like a fireworks show, you know, and everybody's got to go big in the finale. But you know, there's always those two or three that you can tell. You know, the fuse was too short, more than they anticipated, or whatever.
Or it's like a wrestling show. She went on, you know, they try to push her too fast, and it just didn't take. People were like,
"Stop, she couldn't handle it.
Stop shoving Elizabeth Warren down our throats. We don't want Elizabeth Warren." Because the media for a while there was
the
really,
grift is up.
It's funny. All the mainstream people kind of got their push. There's like Joe Biden, even Beto O'Rourke got a push going back like a year ago almost, where they were like, "Beto, he could be the next president." So anyway, that's why I wanted to touch on just a couple things. So one, Elizabeth Warren. Don't want to get too far into this, but if the $17 million stands, that would represent a 30% drop from the previous quarter. Doom and gloom fundraising emails from campaigns are in no way unique. But this is the email she sent. In this email, we're going to do something different, something a little risky. Traditionally, campaigns wait until after the mandatory deadlines. Oh, so sorry, I didn't see his email for us. According to what she emailed people, this actually holds up. That's the number. So yikes, that looks really bad for Elizabeth Warren. Again, though, doom and gloom fundraising emails, like, hey, everything's going great. $1 would be nice, but we don't need it. Doesn't really get you money.
Yeah, but what if she gets this big push because she secretly is a corporatist?
But I don't know. But one more person I want to talk about, though. It's one person I want to talk about, and we'll get into something about this. So I just want to wrap up some of the news we have on this. Now, the other candidate, of course, when you talk about fundraising, Pete Buttigieg, he's got the wine cave money. That is definitely coming in.
Elizabeth Warren's going to give in and do it.
Well, no,
she's such a charlatan. She'll give in and start taking corporate money.
Warren aside, we're also looking at Pete Buttigieg and then Joe Biden, who doesn't raise a lot of money in general, right? Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with Joe Biden. He just doesn't raise money. We're going to look at that in a second.
Well, he gets enough for those private jets.
But this is what's interesting. So Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders announced Monday that his campaign received contributions from nearly 5 million donors in the fourth quarter, far more than any other candidate. Based on his previous average donation of $18, Sanders could expect a windfall of about $26 million in the fourth quarter, according to the Times, or roughly twice of what Andrew Yang has raised. So Bernie Sanders, we talked the other day about how Bernie Sanders he's learned how to, I don't want to say gamify, but his advertising team has really figured out extracting small donations repeatedly is a really great way to go about it. And I think that's part of it. I think this repeatedly extracting $5 to $10 from people, $1 maybe, 40, 50 times a cycle is really doing well for
and the psychological
fundraising.
effect creates more ripples, which only makes it so more people want to do it. Like,
it's kind of like a
he's
dopamine
the original
thing.
gangster of Medicare for All. He's the original gangster of literally yelling at maybe only about 26 decibels from the podium. And he's definitely the original gangster of glorifying small donations and vilifying corporate donations in an effective way. You know what I'm saying? That actually made it into the national political sphere. So with that, he's got an entire, 6 to 10 years more experience at doing it. And it obviously shows.
And well, I think also just their strategy, it works for them really well because I was reading I'll see if I can link the article for this. Now you can go back and watch our older videos from a couple of days ago. But what's really interesting is a lot of people described it, not only for Sanders, for every candidate. A lot of people described this kind of phenomena of not really, just kind of like when you see something on TV that your candidate feels unfairly attacked or whatever, like during the A Media Blackout, people will donate. And it felt good. Like I'm doing something, if someone sees Bernie Sanders, unfair things about Bernie Sanders, people will donate. It feels good to help. I think we're seeing campaigns adopt that message of, while people are kind of there with you on a day-to-day basis on this campaign trail now with social media, I mean, they're there with you for every second of every day as you're running. I think trying to repeatedly get small donations when you flare up in the media for little stuff is the way to go, Hey, so-and-so just said this about us. Help us fight back. And
well, it is
that
unimpeachable.
is a great way to, it's just a smart way for fundraising. But this is what I want to get into a little bit before we talk about last quarter and what that means. So let's assuming the money's coming in. Everyone with Mr. Moneybags, right? So the graph on 538 about TV ads. Now, obviously, not everyone's putting their money here.
Yeah.
However, I have to imagine a good chunk of money goes into TV ads because
yeah.
they're very effective. Just ask Michael Bloomberg, who, by the way, he's the gold bar here. Michael Bloomberg, the billionaire who's run all the ads in the world. He did slow down.
Every time I look at this graph, I still get blown away.
Sorry, one sec. I have to correct myself. He did not slow down big at all. It's Monday. This is the first day. Tom Steyer just came out swinging, I guess. Or maybe this hasn't updated all the way, but still. You'll notice that Bernie Sanders is this kind of is that a magenta? Is that a mauve? I don't know what color. It's probably neither of those colors. Anyway, you'll notice here, Bernie Sanders hasn't really, despite being probably the top traditional fundraiser, I think Buttigieg is right there with him with the kind of the wine cave money. But you'll notice that isn't really what's going. I mean, he's running roughly as many TV ads as Andrew Yang is since Yang started running them. So I think that is interesting. It is interesting to see where that Bernie money goes. I don't know if maybe it's going more towards digital. I have seen a very aggressive digital, so it could just be big digital buys.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just more grassroots, or not grassroots even, but just canvassing, opening field offices. I'm not quite sure what he's on because obviously it's no secret that people like Bloomberg and Steyer are all in on TV ads, and even Andrew Yang. I mean, relative to the money he's raising, he's raising less money than Bernie Sanders, but basically going neck to neck with him on TV ad buys. Just one metric to look at, but. I thought that was really interesting because that's ultimately where it seems like a lot of these candidates want their money to eventually go, is exposure, getting their name out there. I guess, like you were saying before, though, does Bernie, we've said before, who is waking up in 2019 going, who's this Bernie Sanders guy? He's got good ideas.
Dude,
he's been
I gotta
a
tell
prominent figure for years.
If I were running the Bernie Sanders campaign, I would literally sit those top 5 down. And I would show the dollar for dollar return on investment in terms of votes that you got for everything and start them canvassing. Screw media, except for for fundraising and for basic branding.
He gets wrecked worse than Yang sometimes. No, actually, no. Yang gets shafted completely. Bernie gets the disrespect.
Yeah, but he's got seriously active followers. When we were in Nevada at the First in the West meeting, everybody had their excited moment where they did their chant, but literally who seemed like they were trying to escape the loony bin by beating the decibel meter the whole entire time? The Bernie Sanders crew.
No, the thing is, I have.
They were cheering
but,
like
okay.
crazy. They didn't have a band, and they
know
were
who else was
outdoing
very
the
loud,
bands.
though? Do you know who else was very loud? Only thing I'll say about this, I just don't want to put too much stock into that. The Kamala people next to us were screaming their heads off, and she's out of the race. So I'm just saying, like it's.
Yeah, but if he's
I
still
do
in the
agree
race and he's got
but hold
that
on.
much activist fervor,
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
have them going door to door, dude. That's where it's at.
Well, they probably already are. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders is by some metrics basically like neck and neck with Joe Biden. But
Yeah.
I want to get into this. So this graph is showing money in, money out. That's why it looks a little bit confusing. Tom
Yeah.
Steyer hasn't raised this money. I believe the non-brown or gray bar, it's the money you've raised. So this is quarter 3. So I want to show you guys for quarter 3. Remember, Elizabeth Warren, 30% is one way of phrasing it. If she raises it like 15 or 18 instead of 25, that's a big drop. And I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think raising less money as your campaign goes on is a good sign.
Yeah.
Like, people who are giving you money before aren't. That's not good. But where would $12.5 million, again, just going off last quarter's projections and looking at the fact that I don't think Joe Biden's going to have a big surge in fundraising. He'll probably be there. Pete might tick up a little bit. So it's looking like it might end up being Bernie, Pete, Biden, Warren, and then Yang right there, which is funny because that's basically the breakdown we're seeing. Is Yang is so close to being in that front runner, but he's still kind of tier 2. Now, trust me, there's a bunch of tier 3 candidates that would love to be in tier 2 right now, but he's just kind of in that spot where you can look and by every metric, it's like he's just a little bit behind that group of the first 4. However, a Warren fall, that could be what it takes to put bump up Yang a bit, because if Elizabeth Warren legitimately is just going to raise 30% less money from one quarter to the next, what, 4 months? Like, that is crazy, man. Like, maybe she had, maybe it's just, we had a really good 4 months before, but like,
So this is what I'm predicting, is as we get closer, a lot of these candidates' strengths are going to solidify. Right now, Pete Buttigieg has a big time strength in Iowa because it's culturally more like Indiana. He's been working the system there better. He's done a good job in Iowa, right? But he's tanking everywhere else. Okay, I think Elizabeth Warren won't do as well, in Iowa, but she seems to be doing better in New Hampshire and so on and so forth and all these other places. And it seems like in those early states, there really are only 2 candidates, maybe 3, but really 2 candidates that kind of do uniformly decent, and that's Joe Biden and Andrew Yang. Except for South Carolina, Andrew Yang's kind of tanking there too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, but
so they're both kind of similarly in the same game though, where they just need to make it to the next level. You know what I'm saying? Without posting zeros.
Oh no, yeah.
Without bageling, as we used to call it when we were going door to door, and you got a big fat 0 sales for the day.
So one thing I want to touch on before we get too far off this, going back to Andrew Yang and his fundraising. This is from S.Y. Lee, who does work as I'm blanking on his title. Let's look it up right now. National Press Secretary. There we go. Only because, National Press Secretary, man. By the way, give this guy some followers. He has like 400 followers. The National Press Secretary for Andrew Yang. Anyway, so again, he's reaffirming that 12.5 is kind of like a preliminary number they can release now without looking bad if something happens. Like, basically, they can say 12.5 million now, but they're expecting more. I mean, this could be a 30% bump in funding for Andrew Yang. It could be closer to 13, 14, 15 million. Who knows? Especially, I wanted to highlight this as well. There's currently they've been doing a big Yang fundraising push over the last day or so, I want to say, trying to raise $3 million. And you can see they've raised $2.1 million in a couple days, I believe. Could be wrong. Maybe it's about a week longer. I'm not sure exactly when this started. But they're trying for one last big deadline push to the we started a week ago, sorry, to $3 million right before the deadline. So there is more money coming in for Yang. It just seems they're confident to announce $12.5 million, but, don't be surprised if it ends up being a little bit closer to 13, 14, 15, 16 million maybe is what I'm reading into this. Again, that's just speculation. Don't get too far ahead of ourselves. We don't know what the actual numbers are, but
Yeah.
I have to say, again, we just like the relativity of fundraising, because it's like a business. Oh, we sold out. We made a bunch of money, but we don't get to keep any of it because we're not running. You know what I mean? Like, you have to make sure stuff actually matters here. Raising more money while other candidates in front of you, like Warren, are raising less and potentially moving into that top tier of fundraisers, I think that's really good for Andrew Yang. However, we still got to see the actual numbers when they come out. I was gonna say maybe Elizabeth Warren gets this massive surge of fundraising, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't see it happening, but it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know, man. It's just the preliminary numbers are starting to come out for Q4. A lot of people are interested in this because this is basically the war chest you have for Super Tuesday in Iowa in the early. Like, that is what this is, right? Like, this is the money you have to go and win those votes the last stretch run of this first part of the primary season. So it's
like that final last Matrix movie, Matrix Revolution, I think it was. And in the final scene, they've got the dudes that stand in those mech things that are shooting the huge machine gun ammo things. And then there's the one little ammo runner kid who's a little bit afraid, and he won't go out, but then finally he conquers his fear. He runs out. Revolutions, that's it. And then right as the bad demon thingy is about to come by and just boom, hit him, he slams the ammo thing to the back and that's what the money is.
Oh yeah,
for these campaigns. The fundraisers are those little guys carrying the ammo cart as they run to
well, I guess those would be the actual donors themselves, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, the ammo is the donations.
Yeah. So the donors provide the donations.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, exactly. So it's they're the donors are like those little dudes running with the cart trying to slam the ammo.
But I will say so. Matrix aside, the couple big takeaways. I do like that analogy. Just the couple big takeaways from me are whatever Andrew Yang's doing is working because he's not faltering. He's raising more money. And Andrew Yang might need to start stealing Bernie Sanders' ask for very small donations frequently strategy. It's working. He is raising a
and I gotta say,
money,
I was really impressed, and there was part of me that was thinking, wow, he raised $10 million. I hope this isn't a fly by night. And thinking, is this gonna literally Elizabeth Warren is doing what I was afraid Andrew Yang might be doing. I was thinking, gosh, did he all of a sudden get a lot of publicity and it got out who he is, and now he'll get that first big wave, but then people, once they've donated, might think, oh, well, I've kind of already donated, maybe wait for a while. And he, who knows, maybe he'll post some bad quarters. You never know. But he has posted significant growth. In Q3, he was the highest percentage of growth from Q2, which is great. Okay. And then now, obviously, going from 10 million to 12.5 to 15 million or whatever, it's only a 25 to 50% growth, not like the 300% growth he had before it, but it's still significant. And you can't really look at too many campaigns that are doing that, because first off, obviously all the failed campaigns aren't, and you have to take them into account. Oh, yeah. Who you have already outlasted, you need to take into account. We got to give credit where credit is due. Oh, yeah. So none of those campaigns are. And then all the others have basically reached kind of this linear, flatline, steady growth, okay, where they will predictably be able to bring in 25 million a quarter, okay, or they're going to actually start going down like Elizabeth Warren has, because the grift is up. Mm-hmm. And so as long as he can just keep posting growth, it's like I almost think their campaign slogan just needs to be, as long as we survive one more day, one more quarter, we will eventually beat you. They are literally the tortois.
They need to, tortoise. They need to hire someone to maybe clean up the.
Yeah, they need to clean that slogan up.
Tighten the messaging up. But I agree. I mean, again, I guess you could say just it has seemingly, if these numbers hold, it seems like Andrew Yang is taking money out of Elizabeth Warren's pocket at this point. If he was a 30% increase and she's a 30% decrease, somebody in there gave money to Yang instead of Warren. It's hard to imagine in a vacuum people left Warren and went to other candidates, not Yang, but Yang is still getting a bump.
Now, this is a data set. I'm curious if you have come across this, Cody, because I know we've come across people who have said who their second choice is. We had that Emerson poll that showed that Andrew Yang is highest as a second choice amongst Julian Castro voters. But do we have any data out there as to people that have donated to multiple campaigns? Because, I know that there's people that have donated to Andrew Yang, given him $100, but, they gave $250 to Elizabeth Warren. They're kind of like, well, Elizabeth Warren's my gal, but I do like Andrew Yang, and if something were to happen, I'd like to help see him succeed. And I know it's a subset and it's going to be a minority of donors, but I almost wonder how much money Andrew Yang is getting from double dip donors.
It's probably out there. I'll look some digging and see if I can get the actual numbers on there. But
Because
there's
when
definitely a lot
those
of people who
people-
donate to multiple I mean, for example, there's one of the articles I pulled up before didn't have the figure on it, but there is a lot of people out there who've donated. They count as small donors, but like if you donate a total of like $5,000, it's just split across 9 candidates and foundations, you come across as a small donor each individual time. That stuff I have some numbers on, but not anything else, unfortunately.
Okay, interesting. So anyway, let us know what you guys think. This is really exciting news for the Andrew Yang campaign, and we still don't have really good data, Cody, because we're in the middle of the polling blackout. Okay. And also we don't have the quarter ended yet, so we can look at all the filing data. So we still haven't been able to see if that big Q3 raise with all those new hires and those new TV commercials have really truly paid off yet. So we still haven't been able to analyze if all of the speculation we've had over the past 2 weeks has been paid off yet, but we will in a couple of weeks when things start rolling again. And we're going to have to start speculating on the Q4, 15 to 12 million before we're able to finish confirming what our thoughts were on the Q3 10 million. So we are really basically, in a nutshell, driving beyond our headlights right now. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. If you haven't had a chance to like the video, please like and subscribe. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.